So Tito, what motivated this research?
Well, a number of things. So one was just seeing the phenomenon of, well, social progress happens and we want to celebrate it, right? And we want to understand the psychology behind it. And one of them is, okay, of course, we see signs of social progress and that elevates our courage to continue to work on it. But we also had some reasons based on previous research and psychological models suggesting, hey, there's this other tricky thing that might happen there that we might want to pay attention to.
It strikes me as being fascinating that people who have experienced discrimination could look at it in any other light other than it being a negative. And I know that it isn't just like, oh, it's all positive, but just to look at it in a better light, that sounds so shocking to me.
Yeah. I mean, so there are two sides of it, right? So one is, to some extent, it already happens naturally as a coping mechanism, right? Sometimes it's just like better to look at those experiences. It just feels better to look at those experiences that were negative on a better light because peace of mind, right? So there's a little bit of that. I think the interesting thing is that the thing that we find that triggers fairness revisionism, which is seeing social progress happening, is not this just looking for peace of mind. You're seeing social progress happening in the present, and you're reframing the past as if it happened back then, right?
Yeah, why do people do this? Why does this happen?
So I think there are two things that are part of this phenomenon. One is about our tendency to rethink of things that happened in the past based on how we feel about things in the present. So the way we feel in the present changes how we remember things from our past, right? So this is just a thing that happens as part of how memory works, how reframing our own history works. That's one thing. So the other part of the phenomenon is the trigger, which is seeing social progress happening. And one thing that we show in the paper is that this is social progress that might not even affect you. You might not even benefit from it. It could maybe only be something that future generations of your social group will benefit from. But then there is this phenomenon that happens with social groups, which is when someone else who's part of my social group, can celebrate a victory of something. And I like to give the example of sports, because I'm Brazilian and I love soccer. And I know that when Brazil is playing the World Cup and they win a game, we all celebrate as if we were the players and we were benefiting and getting all the good salary that they get. No, we're just happy. We're like experiencing that as if we were the people who played the game and won. But it's because we experience this as a shared experience with our social group, right? So when you see social progress that will benefit future generations of your own social group, you kind of like assimilate those fairness gains as part of your own personal experience. And then again, put that together with the way you feel in the present, shaping how you remember things from your own past, you find this phenomenon there.
What is next for you in your research with this?
So one thing that I think it would be interesting now is kind of looking at the opposite pattern, right? So what we show in the paper is you see social progress and then you reframe your past experiences as not having been as bad. But what we're seeing right now, and it's very prevalent in the news, it's the other thing alongside the tariffs things, is how, for instance, in the US, all the pushback with DEI policies and other tools that help fight discrimination, right? So this is the opposite of social progress, right? And we don't have data yet, but it stands to reason that it leads to the opposite pattern when it comes to people rethinking about their previous experience with discrimination, right? Yeah. So I think looking at not social progress, but the opposite of it, and what happened, the psychology of that, and how it affects the way people remember their prior experiences, that's one thing that I'm very curious about and I want to look at.